morning. Sutra, Book 2, number 27. One's wisdom, hold on. One's wisdom in the final stage is sevenfold. One experiences the end of, number 1, the desire to know anything. 2, the desire to stay away from anything. 3, the desire to gain anything new. 4, the desire to do anything. 5, sorrow. 6, fear. 7, delusion. The first stage is where we come to the conclusion that by running here and there, by looking to externals, we are not going to gain the knowledge we seek. Knowledge is a thing to be attained from within by tuning in. Tuning in means to go in, to understand ourselves, to know thyself first. If we do not know ourselves, we will make mistakes in knowing other things. We should know with what glasses we are viewing the outside. Are they clean or colored? If they are colored, naturally we will see a colored world outside. We can't blame the world for this color. A scale should be correct itself before trying to give the correct weight of objects placed on it. If the scale is wrong, the weight will certainly be wrong. We must see if the mind is in a neutral position so it can judge things properly. The second understanding is that all experiences of pleasure and pain come not from the outside, but are the interpretation of our own mind. The mind makes these experiences and creates these feelings. If this understanding comes, all miseries and pains are over. We will see we are not pained by any externals and that nothing can make us unhappy. When we know that our mind is the cause of these pains, we will try to correct it rather than blaming the outside world or other people. We will feel no need to seek after things, nor to avoid them. The third position comes once you understand the mind fully, and with that neutral mind, attain cosmic understanding. You need not study anything for that. No books can give it. Many saints were illiterate. They never knew what a school was. But we read these ideas even now. None of the Upanishadic seers went to colleges or universities. They merely sat under trees and watched nature. But their words are crushed jewels now. Where did their learning come from? It came from within. There is a wealth of knowledge inside. The scriptures say, know the one, by knowing which you will know everything. This understanding without learning is the third level of consciousness. The fourth step comes once we understand nature and its workings. We feel there is no longer anything to be done. If we understand the cosmic plan, we rise above all doership. There is no particular duty for us, no do's or don'ts. At that time, we are prompted to do things only because our minds are linked to the cosmic mind. There is no personal action. As we are prompted, we just do. We do not know why we are doing things and will not bother about whether they are good or bad. The scriptures ask, Ko vidi, ko nidasa. What is a must and what is not? There are no musts, nothing one must do, nothing one should or should not do. Whatever we do is part of the cosmic plan. That means, even though such a person appears to be doing something, really he or she is not doing anything and becomes the akarta, the non-doer. A Tamil saint put that idea into a poem. O Lord, I give you my entire personality, body, mind, and life, and you have accepted it. If there is anything happening through my body or mind, am I responsible? Good might happen, bad might happen, but you are responsible. You make me do this. People may say, he is a bad man. He is doing bad things. But you know that it is not I who do it. It is you working through me. These words will come only when we realize we are completely in the hands of a higher will. It is very easy to stand in front of the altar and say, I am thine, all is thine, thy will be done. But do we really feel that way? Have we ever completely given up? In such a state, there are no duties for us. All our duties are God's duties. We are not responsible. But this state cannot be merely an intellectual understanding. If that is the case, we can even slap someone on the face and say, it is all God's will. I gave God everything. Even my hand has been given to God, who is using it to slap you. Some people, when their businesses do well, say, we really know how to do business. We bought this at the right time. Now see the 10% increase in sales. And if their businesses do badly, they say, my goodness, every day we burn candles for God who has no eyes at all. There is no point in my believing in God. If God were merciful, why would we have such a great loss? When profit comes, they are responsible. When loss comes, God is responsible. Our attitude should be constant. Either we are responsible for everything or God is. We should always blame it on the big I or the little I, but not on whichever is convenient at the time. If we want to be egoistic, we should be egoistic for everything. Even if someone abuses us, we should feel responsible for that abuse. Either we should surrender completely to God's will or use only our will. The fifth plane is actually an after effect of that understanding. Once we come to know there is nothing to be done, the chitta is completely free of impressions. It is liberated. Because it had that tinge of ego, it acted as it wanted. Once that is separated, it just becomes a humble, simple mind, completely free of impressions. And although old impressions remain, they lose their capacity to disturb the mind. In the sixth level, the chitta loses itself. This is called mananasa or chittanasa, and it means the mind is completely chucked off. When the mind gets totally dissolved, the seventh and last plane remains. This is when the Purusha alone remains, resting in its own sarvupta. Here, the Purusha rests in itself, for there is nothing else to rest in. Atmana Atmana, Panasan Atmana Tusakti, says the Bhagavad Gita. Beholding the self by the self, one is satisfied in the self. This is the highest samadhi. We should know all what these things are, because one day we will certainly all reach that state. As they happen, we will see the signs. Sometimes people are frightened by the unexpected. If they suddenly lose physical consciousness in meditation, they feel, something is happening to me. Am I going to die? They disturb their meditation. Instead, if we know the signs, we will welcome these things. The aforementioned are the different stages along the yogic path. Once the final stage is achieved and we learn to go within without expecting anything from externals, we have caught hold of the first link. Then it's only a matter of pulling in order to get the entire chain. But first, one must be present. Saint Chiramula said, a person was running and running in search of the light. He spent his whole life doing that. Ultimately, he collapsed and died because he couldn't reach it. Millions and millions of people collapse this way because they don't even know that the light is within. Another saying of his is, even if you practice yoga for 8,000 years, you are not going to reach the light. By this, he means external yoga, reading books, learning all the scriptures by heart, going on pilgrimage to all the temples, ashrams, and churches in the world. This is all baya or external practice. Some people waste thousands of years in such effort. If only we look within, we will see the light as if we were seeing our own image in a mirror. All the different religions say this. We're not going to get it from the outside. Turn in, look within, know thyself. The teachings can help you slightly, but too much learning may just muddle your mind. We should learn a little and work with that. Turning inside means turning the senses within, trying to hear something within, see something within, smell something within. All the scents are within us. All the beautiful music is within us. All art is inside. Why should we search, running after museums and gardens when every museum and garden is inside us? We should spend a little time in the morning and evening to go within. Gradually, we can extend this to our entire daily life. Whatever our limbs do outside, we can keep our minds pulled inside. As I quoted before, a Hindu saying goes, Man me Ram, hath me kam. This is work in the hand, but Ram, God, in the mind. Things like books are only aids, which we should not hesitate to let go of when they are no longer useful. With the help of a ladder, we can get to the rooftop, but once on top, we let go of the ladder. We needn't put the garlands around the ladder and prostrate to it. Many times people adore and worship symbols. For example, there are those who bind and place their scriptures in velvet cases, which they keep on their altars and carry in procession, but never even read one line of. Symbols should be used to help you transcend them. With the help of the mind, we transcend the mind. Once we reach our destination, we can throw it out or go away. There should be no sentimentality here. Make the proper use of spiritual aids and do not hesitate to leave them and go further. When we get nice accommodations on a plane, are we going to remain seated even after reaching our destination? Many times I find a nice parking place, and I'm tempted to say, such a great parking spot. If I take the car out, I won't get it again. I'll just walk to the lecture hall. But a car is no good to be kept in a parking place. Instead, I have to use it. Some students think, if I open this book, the binding will become damaged. I better not open it. Swamiji gave it to me. I must keep it as a memento. Instead, we should make use of these things. Study the book page by page, digest it. You can even give it to someone else when you're through with it. That should be our attitude. Once we reach the first step, we are on an escalator that takes us to the 7th stage. You guys can unmute yourselves too if you have anything to say to this. I love this one, and I feel like my head is swirling with thoughts. But this one, for me, like when I took my 200 hour and all this knowledge came into my life that I felt like I had been looking for, because I didn't even know any of this yoga philosophy or that it was available to me, that I went on this like rampage of learning and absorbing and buying all the books and reading all the books that, and I've said this before, I had to take a pause. And last year I spent no trainings and I read the meditations from the mat book every day. It's built with 365 passages and they're about a paragraph to a page each. And it's said to be one of the best books on the 8 limbs of yoga, which is what we're getting into. And every day I just read one page from that book. And that was my learning for the year. And that's what I get out of it and here, where it's like I guess that's what it was. It was like for me to pick one thing to focus on learning. Like I love that we're taking the sutra book and just picking it apart and really trying to understand it. And Jafar reminded us last night, I think he said Sutra 119, which I didn't go back to, but there's a sutra in here that he says, that Pantanjali says, like, look, this book is here for you, but if you already feel like you have all this knowledge, stop reading. Like, put the book down and go do something else. Like, give the book away. And I even just like listening to some of my teachers, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could be like them, like with their knowledge. But then when I turn in, I'm like, I know it. I just don't always have the words for it. Like I feel it. Like I connect with this philosophy so much. But I don't know all the Sanskrit words, and sometimes I can't even explain it. I can feel it, and I can act with it.
That's beautiful, Pam. What's coming up for me is I've started sort of like following medicine women and medicine people in like Latin America. And so there's this researcher that I get her monthly newsletter, and she like every month shares medicine stories, and she talks about how the true medicine people usually are not on a stage. They're not on Instagram or Facebook. In fact, they spend 90% of their time in nature. That's how they commune with God. And I'm thinking of this passage where he says, like, you know, some of the saints didn't go to college. They didn't read texts. They didn't study these things. How did this information get to them? How did they know this if they didn't read it somewhere? And it's so like beautiful how this book reminds us that anything you seek is within, that anything you want to know, think you need to know, you just turn inward. And this is coming up for me, like I think of the people in Mexico, and I think of the people, like my father was from Costa Rica, so I think of the people in Costa Rica, and I start to think, like, why am I drawn? That's like the deeper I get in my yoga practice, the more I'm drawn to indigenous practices, things that are true to my lineage, because I feel like it's the same, you know, like you can relate to like who you are, where you come from, when you follow like that path. Even when it comes to like eating Ayurvedically, it's like sometimes I don't want to eat Indian flavored foods. Like I don't want to use the spices normally used in India. I want to use the spices that I grew up with. And I feel like it's the same thing with my relationship to universe or God or the unicorn. It's like I wanna connect in a way that's an expression of me and the people I come from, if that makes sense. But it's beautiful because she was saying how like she's trying to bring the knowledge of indigenous medicine and indigenous wisdom forward, but in order to do that, you have to find people who can't really be found because they're in the Amazon, and they're communing with like nature in that way. And so anytime I start to feel like I don't know enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't know these words, or I don't know how to say this, anytime that starts to come up, it's like zip it and go sit under a tree. Or like I used to burn like Palo Santo and sage, and now it's not the thing that I buy anymore. I like go, since I walk around the lake, I'll look around the lake, and if there's a tree that has resin coming out of it, like in front of my house, there's a little tree that has resin coming out of it, and I'm just waiting for it to dry so that I can scrape it, and that will be my incense. Because there's more honesty, there's more integrity in that, which is like, I mean, I don't know if there's more integrity in it. I believe that there's more integrity in it, especially because we exhaust our natural resources like out of habit. So I'm trying to do, instead of buying things, instead of commercializing the use of actual plant spirits, maybe there's plant spirit right around me that I can use instead. Anyway, anytime I get in my head and I'm like, oh, I don't know these things, or I don't know enough, like this whole conversation of like, I'm not enough. It's like, you know, you just look up and you take in the grand sky, and you just like let your feet dip into the lake or dip into the ocean, or you know, you eat a spring onion right out of the forest, and it's like, this is the medicine, this is God, this is Purusha in all things. And maybe these lessons are just to remind us, like, you don't really need to be here, you need to be out there. And I love how he says you don't have to do anything. You'll know what to do because it'll just occur to you. You know, like, you're not forcing yourself to do something. It'll just come on you, where it's like, oh, I got to do this thing. It just comes naturally, and it feels to me like this time that we're going through, this experience in the world right now, is giving us an opportunity to see those things, to be like, oh, I can just be. I don't have to do anything. I can just be. And the more I am with nature, the more connected I am to God. I don't know, it just seems very sweet.
I think like when I took my 200 hours and I took the final, I studied for it, but of course, like, it's a lot of information in a very short time. And on the final, um, I didn't study or memorize the Sanskrit for every single yoga pose. So I circled the question and I wrote did not study. And I felt like that was my honest answer. Like, I have my whole lifetime to learn the Sanskrit. Is it going to make me a better person because I know every Sanskrit word for every single yoga pose? No. And I think that this sutra reminds us, like, if you don't understand something and you want to learn it, it's your responsibility to find the resources, whether it's asking your teacher for a lecture or a recommendation on a book, or having a conversation with somebody to go deeper into it. But I also think that we all already know these answers, and it doesn't have to match what somebody else is saying about it. And that we are striving, I think he's reminding us that we're striving to know all the Sanskrit words, but really, as we are right now in this moment, we already have the light within us with all the knowledge. So whether or not I know every sutra by heart and I've read all the yogic texts, it's not going to make me any more enlightened than I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is something you don't understand, because it can be frustrating, like if there's something in here that you're like, I've heard it 1,000 times, I can't get it. It's made, like we were talking about before, like maybe it's just a matter of finding a different path. Maybe it's journaling about it, or just like we were saying, like how Jenny explained Purusha and Prakriti yesterday in her workshop, which I can send to you all. It was a United We Own workshop, so everyone can access it. Like her way of, and Adriana, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like her way of explaining it made sense to you faster.
Totally.
So, but I don't know if I felt that way. And I'm not, I'd have to, like, I was half listening, so I need to go back and listen to the replay. So like it could be just a matter of finding a different teacher and a different perspective on the same subject.
Mm-hmm.
This was so, there's like so many good parts in this. It's meaty, but it's like full of goodness. I resonate with so many points that you and Adriana brought up, Pam. I remember during my 200-hour, Amanda, I always go back to this. Amanda had said to us, don't get caught up with like doing so many trainings. Like just go out and teach.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're going to think that you can't do it. You're going to, you know, put yourself in this mindset, like I need to learn, I need to know how to do this, I need, you know, to know how to say the Sanskrit, I need to know these advanced techniques, whatever it is. But it's like the practice comes with practice, right? Like actually like
It doesn't come from
teaching.
a book.
Yeah, like you have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing for me as a therapist. Like I learned all about these techniques and these therapeutic things in books, but like when I started seeing clients, that's when the real work and the real learning happened. But Adriana, yesterday you said, yeah, your question yesterday, and I don't remember it the exact way you asked it, but it was about like meditation and going deeper. And I texted Amanda after, and I love that you asked that, Adriana, because it made so much sense to me, her response. It's like, I hear other people's experiences with meditation. I read about meditation, but even as I'm meditating, I question, like, is this right? Is this the feeling? And it's like, no, just like keep dropping in, keep keeping in with the practice, keep keeping up with the practice. And that's the practice, you know? I love that the line, if we only look within, we will see the light, as if we were seeing our own image in a mirror. I think that goes back to, for me, like, I forget where it is in the Bible, but it's the whole like, I am. And I think it was even talked about yesterday, like all of us have God within us, or it was the Ram Dass quote that Amanda said, like, look at everyone as if they
Or God and
have
drag.
God. Yes, or God in drag. And I believe that, like, we all have that light within us or spirit within us. So yeah, this whole thing, I feel like you can reread it and pick out so many parts and read it again in 2 days and pick out different parts.
And I think
So
that's
much
exactly right,
goodness.
Michelle. Like rereading the ones that, like, it doesn't have to just, and it's almost like going back and the God example where it's like you blame things on God or you don't blame things on God. Like if something's, if we end these sessions and I feel like if we're sitting with something and we need more clarity, like we should work to find it, or just know, or just like let it go. Don't like.
This is
Michelle. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rich.
no, you go first, Adrian. I'm curious for you guys to continue the conversation.
Well, I tried to ask the same question last night in Jafar's class.
Right.
And the answer, well, one, we got to meditate. He guided us a little bit. And what his answer was really helpful. It was like more of this, like the deeper he goes in his teaching and the deeper he gets in his own practice, the simpler he starts to share. So he was saying, like, because the question is like, okay, we have all these advanced techniques for meditation, but how do I get there? How do I practice these advanced techniques if the point is to surrender? And his answer, the way it landed for me, was like, less is more. You know, like keep it really simple. And sometimes the complicated stuff, because if there's a trend happening here with Patanjali, and Patanjali likes to take us on this long detour just to bring us back to where we were before.
That pig story is traumatizing too.
So if I'm learning anything at all from this, it's that you're already here. If you need more and you want more, oh, well, here you go. I can teach you how to do headstand to tripod to crow to shoot back. And then from shoot back, you can take a double chaturanga. You can do all that if you want to. It's optional. You know what I mean? Like you can hold the tongue to the roof of your mouth and let it slide back to the throat. You can you know, what is kambuka? Kambuka is the hold. You can retain the
Kombucha.
breath. You can like, okay, there's all these things you can do, and ultimately, it's all going to take you back to square one. And square one is like, just listen deeply. So anyway, Michelle, if that helps. I mean, not that I'm trying to help or that you needed help. I'm not implying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's like the continuation of the conversation. I'm adding.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. As you were saying it, I was thinking like even with work, like sometimes I try to be like I try to give my clients so much. Like I try to like psychoeducation and like this is the way and you know, explaining all these techniques. And then I have days where I literally just like, you know, I'm in a mood or I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm just like I'm quiet and I just listen. And I feel like sometimes those sessions are 100 times more powerful than me trying to like teach them about things. And it's like you said from Jafar, learning that you become like you simplify the deeper that you get in. And I think you said his answers get less complicated, or I don't know how you just said it right now, but that makes so much sense.
No, that's exactly right, Michelle. Yeah.
Yep.
How?
I want Rich to share, but I want us to be mindful of time too.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it quick. I know I'm a little long-winded, but in regards to especially what you read today, what I took away from yesterday, what I'm taking away from this whole experience of getting into philosophy is, you know, it's so easy to fake the funk. It's so easy to get, I don't even want to impose that sort of language, but like you get wrapped up in the spectacle of, oh, I could achieve that, you cling to certain things and you attach to certain results rather than just showing up as authentic as you can be, because every moment, every split second, there's Purusha, or I forgot the word, but it was like this internal wisdom that you have. It's the same thing of every breath is a cycle of life, because within the breath, you could find something that could completely reverse your karma. So it's about showing up. That's what I took away.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a nice Friday. So we'll move into breath work, but thinking about keeping your meditation practice simple today, maybe changing it, maybe not. Another thing I thought about is when I do these meditations for a long time like this, the deeper I go, the more I get into the stuff that's been sitting longer. And we have to think about that burning. Like in Karina's yin training, she talked about using the pole skimmer to scoop up all the leaves and junk at the top of the pool. So like every time you sit for meditation, think about, I like to think about using that pole skimmer to sort of scan my body and let go of things that I really don't need to deal with right now. So that as I go deeper, and then I can use my breath to really burn through the other stuff. So thinking about your intention for your meditation this morning. Thinking about your shape, whether you're sitting in a chair, on the floor, if you're using props, if you're using other tools like a coloring book or a journal. And in this sutra, he talks about turning within by using the senses. So maybe this is a tool you can use today. Try to hear something within, see something within, smell something within. Maybe you can bring your mantra internal. We'll start with a few rounds of alternate nostril breath. Rest your left hand in your left palm. Your left hand in your left lap. Bring your right hand to close your right nostril and your right ring finger to close your left. Just take 2 rounds of breath through both nostrils. Deep breath in, fill up the low belly, really expand the belly button out. And then exhale, let all the air out. If it feels worth, open up your mouth and sigh it out, making a noise. Do one more just like that. Oops. Then setting up for a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing, closing right nostril with right thumb. Inhale through left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. See if you can watch the breath moving internally. Inhaling through left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Breath moving in through the nostril, down the spine. Close right. Exhale left. Watching the breath move up the spine, out through the nostril. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Doing 3 more rounds on your own breath. See if you can bring your attention to the pauses at the top of the breath and the bottom of the breath. Not as a retention, just as a witness. Taking your time to finish your last round, exhaling through left nostril. Customizing your meditation. I'll set the timer for 20 minutes. Bringing your hands together in front of your heart, tucking your chin down, taking a deep breath in, opening up your mouth and sighing it out. Namaste, everybody. Have a beautiful day.